This is the book Beat Depression by David Hinds from 2001. Chapter 29, Suicidal Tendencies. My fortune somewhat resembled that of a person who should entertain an idea of committing suicide, and although beyond his hopes, meet with a good hap to be murdered. Nathaniel Hawthorne, 1804 to 64, The Custom House. The bottom line: we only die once, and it's for such a long, long time. I attempted suicide in my teens. I was led to believe that I was not an easy child, and I should imagine there is much truth in that. My father suffers from depression, and my grandfather, so I was told, had been depressed for much of his life. My uncle had attempted suicide early in his life. Sadly, his only son did commit suicide early in life, and my uncle has been devastated ever since. I left home, school, and London aged 16, following major disagreements at home. I didn't bother to take any exams or complete the academic year. On reflection, one or two of the teachers at my school, particularly my mathematics teacher, were supportive and tried to help me. I think they suspected there had been something the matter with me for years, but I could not bring myself to communicate with anyone beyond a certain no-go level. I moved to Liverpool, working in a camera shop in the city centre, and living across the Mersey on the Wirral in a youth hostel. For a reason that might seem inconsequential and incomprehensibly minor to anyone not consumed by depression, I decided to kill myself because I didn't have enough money to pay the rent. I went to the doctor and extracted a prescription for sleeping pills from him. He was most sympathetic and reached for his pen without too much hesitation when I told him that I hadn't been able to sleep ever since my sister had been killed in a car crash. She hadn't. On my way back from the chemist, I went into a sweet shop and spent the remainder of my money on a giant-sized packet of licorice all sorts, which I consumed with relish, particularly the round pink and yellow coconut ones with licorice in the middle, along with the entire pack of sleeping pills. There was no suicide notes. I had nothing to say to anyone. I had no regrets, no second thoughts, and soon afterwards, no thoughts at all. The next thing I knew, there was a group of doctors and nurses around me. Can you see us? Can you see us? Can you see anything at all? The reason for their concern became apparent when I had recovered sufficiently to look at myself in the mirror. My eyes were nowhere to be seen. All that was visible when they were open were two slits where my eyes used to be. Adults and children who commit suicide are typically those who feel that death is the only way of escaping from what seems to them an impossible life without hope, although in some cases it is a threat or a cry for help that went unheeded. The decision to commit suicide and the actions taken towards that intention are invariably the consequences of negative thinking, the primary characteristic of depression. Suicide is still rare in children under the age of 12. However, the rate of suicide among teenagers has trebled in the last 30 years. Suicide has now become the second highest cause of death among older teenagers in England, the United States, and Sweden. The risk of actual suicide in the year following a previous attempt is nearly 100 times greater than that in the general population. More people commit suicide today than die in road accidents. This cannot go on. We have to embrace the skills necessary to cope with life in the modern world. We can start now. By we, I mean you and me. It is easier for me these days. I have learned to stop the negative thoughts that feed depression at source. With your help, I can show you how to do the same. Read on, the good bits are yet to come. Die, my dear doctor? That's the last thing I should do. Lord Palmerston, 1784 to 1865.